Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Module 2 uh, notes video. Um, just something that I want to emphasize about this video in particular, for those of you that may have noticed just by reading into the folder, there are two notes: narrowing your topic and developing your research. We are going to do both in this video, so there will be a moment where I say, okay, we're switching gears. That's when we're going to transfer to the next one. So just so you're aware, this is what to look forward to. All right, so let's go first with, and I believe I'm pulling up narrowing your topic. Nope. There we go. So we're going to talk about narrowing your topic first. And so this is the note page. As I said, all these images have been uploaded before. These are all physical notes that were written about this class. So it's not like these have no bearing. And I'm going to explain some of the other weird things on here just so that you're understanding. But anyway, so we're talking about refining your topic, narrowing your topic, and really what we are talking about here when we say narrowing your topic, like I said, refine, we're trying to come up with a specific kind of content, something that's going to make sense. And so some of the ways that you can refine your topic is by emphasizing a single event, a specific group, a limited time era, one cause or several effects, or one effect, or one argument, or one viewpoint. Um, I will explain right now. The dogs here over the side was an example used in a different class to refer to a specific groups. If we were having a research thing about all animals, we could narrow it down to dogs and focus on that. That is a way to refine your topic. And so all of these are really good ways to take a broad subject like violence. Um, I do know, and I'm saying this completely honestly, um, there's been a lot of violence lately in our world. If you have not been aware of that, I am surprised that you haven't heard about one of the violent events that have happened lately here in our own world. Heck, even our own country, in our own state as well. So please, I do know I'm trying not to make light of the situation or anything, but I want to say if your topic was violence, that's way too broad. So maybe focusing on a single event like one of those recent violent events that happened, or looking at a specific group. It's a little bit dark, but looking at mass shooters, that would be a way of refining or narrowing your topic. But there is a danger in refining your topic. And that's what this little piece up here is. And the danger is that you can lose your initial idea in it. And even when refining, you can get too broad. I know it seems weird to say, if I'm refining, I'm focusing it. But how can it still be too broad? Sometimes you think you're refining it, and then you find out that you've just somehow managed to get into a whole nother wider area. But then at the same time, sometimes when you refine your topic, you find that there's too much information or it's too specific, and that is a reality when you're doing research, especially in the early stages of conducting research. You're still, for all intents and purposes, and apologies for the name calling, I guess, but you're babies at this. You're brand new to this. Some of you might have done this several times in your old hat at this, but you have to take this class for, red tape. But for those of you that don't, you are brand new to this. I do not expect you to be experts at research. I want to emphasize that. All right. So, something that we have to talk about is what a research question is and what a good research question is. So, research questions are a question. And so, I would normally say, what kind of questions do you think a research question starts with? And I'll tell you right now, the 5 W's and 1 H: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Please note on this note page, the who is marked in red while the others are in black. And I will tell you the reason that who is in red is because this tends to be not a great research question. Um, Only because a good research question, well, you might as well look. A good research question can be answered at least partially objectively. A good research question can be answered with pre-existing knowledge or can be gathered in a fairly realistic way. And the last piece, and this is where the reason why is in, or who is in red. The research question is a question that hasn't been answered yet, at least answered fully or in a specific context. Sorry, not content. So if those are what makes a good research question, who is a straightforward question? Who caused this? Boom, answer, done. Yes, you can make that argument for when and where, but sometimes those when and where tend to be a little more open than a who. So, not saying that they can't be. Um, so, really, the best research questions, the best good research questions, will start with a why or a how or a what. Those are your three strong ones. Where, when, and who are still good, but they're not as strong. And so, I mean, I already talked about it, but what makes a good research question? We have to realize it has to be able to be answered at least partially and objectively. So, this is not, some existential theory of whether or not does God exist or whether or not the Big Bang is the cause of all creation, or pick your subject that doesn't actually have a scientifically based answer. If you cannot answer it objectively, at least partially, not a good research question. You'll notice this is part of all these things that make a good research question are part of the reason why some of the subjects and topics I said were not allowed. Number 2, can be answered with pre-existing knowledge or can be gathered. We're not asking what if questions. We're not asking, what if the dinosaurs didn't get wiped out? Well, we can't answer that because there's no pre-existing knowledge of, how dinosaurs live in the modern setting. You can't point to Jurassic Park, which is fiction, and say, oh yeah, that's pre-existing knowledge. No, it's not. And it can't be gathered because we don't have living dinosaurs. Well, we do, but we don't. It's a whole debate, not important. Can you answer your research question with pre-existing knowledge, or can you gather that knowledge? And this is where I also say, and this is important, so if you are listening to the notes and kind of like half paying attention, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to just do this topic, pay close attention. Can your question, can that information be gathered? I am not requiring your research essay. I'm not requiring you to go out and survey 100 people or 1,000 people. I'm not asking you to conduct a study. That is not what I'm asking. That is way too much, especially in an 8-week course. So, if it's something that can be gathered information and you can do it in a reasonable time, I'm more than okay with it. But please, do not think you have to do some kind of big level study or research where you have to do all this stuff. That's not what I'm requiring. Sorry, that was just a sub piece I want to make sure I emphasized here, because if you just see the notes and don't hear me say that, you might get a little worried. Alright, and then the third one is your research question a question that hasn't been answered yet? And so this is something I learned way back when I first went to college. And this was, don't give me the same old thing that's been around for 100 million years. It's the reason I tell you, don't do the concussion paper, don't do the legalized marijuana. You're not asking a question that hasn't been answered yet. It's pretty much been answered. It's also pretty much been answered fully and in pretty much every specific context. There's very few specific contents for both of those subjects that haven't been addressed yet. And unless you want to give me one of those, if you can make the argument, I will gladly break my rule and let you do that topic. But you have to prove to me without a doubt that it is a question that has not been answered yet, at least fully or in that specific context. So challenge to you if you really want to do a topic that I kind of said no to in a previous video. Alright, and so I had a really good question that I like to bring up, and as our society continues to progress, this question gets more and more complicated and complex. I started using this actually when I first started teaching about 6 years ago, so yeah. Anyway, why are we okay with legal decisions that are ethically and morally wrong? That would be a good research question. It's not the perfect research question. We can still improve on it. But this gives you an idea. We have this why question. Why are we okay with legal decisions? So right now we already know that our subject is going to be about pretty much court cases, so legal decisions that are ethically and morally wrong. So right there we have our problem. Is this a question that has been answered? In some senses, yes, but I don't think fully, and I don't think in the specific context, if we wanted to dig deeper, we could pick a certain type of legal decision, and that would change everything. That's how we get to a good research question. You have to bring all the different pieces together and kind of just keep working at it. And so, the second part of this video, the second notes page, is going to be talking more about the way, the structure that we go to that, and we're kind of going to bring this back together, putting the whole stuff. So we're going to change gears here real quick. And so now we're going to talk about the process. And I've got several things that I need to say. So obviously you can see this wonderfully chaotic but straightforward list, and not really going to dive too much into everything. I'm going to talk about the big pieces that need explanation. So the process is pretty straightforward. This is how you do the writing process and the research process, and that's first you got to choose a topic. Like I can't emphasize that enough. And if you're not sure what topic you want to do, if you're still figuring out what you want to do, it's okay to have more than one. So we call 1A potential topics. What exactly do you think you might want to do? Even if you keep multiple topics at this point, this is where you start to narrow your topics. You're going to look at all of your potential ones and go, you know what? This I could focus on this, or I could focus on that. So we want to narrow our topics because we don't really get to anything until step 4. Step 3 is exploring your topic, and in particular, this is where we free write. And so this was something that was mentioned in our first module. Free writing is a really great pre-writing strategy. This is a great way for us to, really kind of mindlessly figure out what we already know about a topic. So I will always encourage you to free write when you're doing your topic stuff before you do any research. Just start writing about what you know. It doesn't have to be in sentences. It can be in bullet form. It can be a picture. It doesn't matter. You're not really showing it to anyone. But free write. Free write and explore what you already know about your topics. Sometimes that actually leads you to which one you really want to do. Anyway, once you've finally done that, you can do preliminary research. Conducting preliminary research. If you had me in 101, this is what I call baby research. Don't be offended. It's not what it sounds like, but it is. Baby research really is just entry level, going to the Wikipedia page, doing a basic Google search. Like, I'm not asking you to, find out every single moment of your topic. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to just fill in the big gaps of your own knowledge. When did this thing begin or start? Where does it come from? Who started it? Find out those questions. And this, after you've started doing that research, this is where your research question should come from. Because you've done a little bit of that baby research, so now you know a little bit more. So has the answer with research or with new research, can that actually occur? What do you want to do? This is the great moment. Then what we do is, once you have this research question, that's when we construct a working thesis. And so this is what I want to say. A thesis statement is the answer to your research question. Now, I want to emphasize this. This is a working thesis, not your final thesis statement. So, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be a little messy. I believe you actually have your working thesis statement is due the same day as the proposal, which is the 19th of June. Don't worry. Trust me, you will, we'll talk a little bit about thesis statements in Module 3. But anyway, once you've actually started doing this baby research, you've created your research question, you've made some kind of early proto-thesis, this is when you create your proposal. And as I said before, the proposal is a really easy assignment. Comparatively speaking about this, the first two assignments are the really easy ones, and then the last one is just the amalgamation of everything else, so we'll get there. But your proposal is just saying, hey, see all this that I've already done? See how I kind of figured out a topic, and this is what I know, and this is the question I have, and this is what I think my answer is going to be? Yeah, this is what I want to do. That's all the proposal is. And so we will talk about it. We will talk about it in Module 3. We'll talk about what a proposal looks like and things you need and all that other stuff. So, how do you manage all this and all the other crap that comes with this class? Those of you that are familiar with me or familiar with the terrible old joke, how do you eat an elephant? In bite-sized pieces. Truly, if you had me in FYE or in English 101, or you just had me before, you know that I will always tell you the best way to deal with any of this, schoolwork, life, whatever, is to take it in bite-sized pieces, things that you can manage. Don't try to overwhelm yourself. That's when things go wrong. Alright, so if we really think about it as managing this whole idea into bite-sized pieces, pick out your topic. First step, that's it. Don't do anything else. Set aside like 10 minutes to just figure out some topics. Write them all down. 10 minutes, timer, off, boom, walk away. Then plan out your research and your writing. This is where you look at your topic and you go, okay, I know this already. This is what I want to find. And you don't just dive into the research blind. You actually think about what things you want to look up. That's why you plan out. This will make this bite-sized pieces, this managing, super easy. Then you conduct research. And again, we'll talk about research. I believe Module 4 is actually where we talk about research. Up until that point, it's just kind of real basic baby research stuff. So then you'll conduct research. And then once you've done that, guess what? You're going to organize your research. And then you're going to start drafting. And you're going to revise and keep going back to step 5 or 3 and go back through as much as possible. Because I'm sorry to tell you this, writing is a recursive process. And all that means, it's a fancy word for saying it repeats. It goes back around in a circle. So, writing is a process where you kind of keep going back and forth. So, bear that in mind. Alright, down here is just some general advice about writing, and this is not just for this class, this is for any college class. So this is kind of like a pseudo FYE kind of a piece of advice. So stay organized. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you have like 8 million tabs open, like some people I know, keep them organized. If you do research, at least print out the first page or something so that you have a physical copy you can look at and be like, this is exactly what I wanted. Maybe you write down everything that you see on that first page. Just keep organized as you're going through this, because things are going to happen. The other big thing to think about is anticipate challenges. Do you know that you live in an area where internet is not the most reliable? If you know that, then you know that it's going to be hard to do research at home. So you're going to have to make time somewhere to be able to go somewhere with internet to do online research. If you're going to just do book research, that's fine too. But you at least know what challenges you're going to have. If you have an old computer and you know that it just randomly decides, yeah, I'm not going to work today, then you know that you probably shouldn't wait until Sunday night to watch the videos and do homework assignments, because you can't rely on your computer. Always anticipate challenges. That's the success secret goal for any college student, is anticipate any of those challenges you might come across. And so as far as drafting and writing, this is my big advice. Number one, don't make major changes before a peer read. Have someone else read your drafts before you make any major changes to a paper, because it always helps to have an outside opinion and someone to look at it. Because if some random person that you know reads it and goes, I don't understand what it means, there's a problem. If they just don't understand the terminology, that's one thing, the fancy words you use. But if they don't understand what you're trying to say, there's a confusion in your writing process. So always have someone else read it. It just helps. Number two, be open to all feedback. I know it's hard because sometimes there's some really good feedback and sometimes there's some really bad feedback. But you learn from all of it. So be open to all feedback. This one is more specifically for being a college student and writing in a college class, but don't use the same document for everything. Don't just have untitled doc or assignment 1 and that's the same assignment sheet that you use and you just save over your changes. Don't do that. That's really bad, because sometimes you need something from that earlier doc and it's gone. Which perfectly segues into, don't permanently delete anything. Don't shred it. Don't rip it up. Don't throw it in the trash. Don't delete the file. At the end of a class that you're in, that's when you can delete stuff for that class. Because you never know. I have had it before where I was writing a research paper and I threw out the actual original document that had notes that were supposed to help me to write my final draft. I lost it, and I lost points because I did not have those notes anymore. Don't get rid of anything until after the semester, because you never know. There's always going to be that one moment where you're like, oh, I had this really good source in this one paper and now I can't remember what it is. Don't delete. And then this is my general writing advice, and I do mean this. This is for anything that you're ever going to do, whether you want to be a writer or you just write in your spare time, or you're in a college class right now, aka this one, or some other one where you have to do an assignment. It doesn't matter. This applies not just to school. Just write. Just do it. We sometimes are our biggest our biggest criticizers, and sometimes we get in our own heads and stop ourselves from doing something we need to do. Don't let that happen. Just write. Just do it. So if you're like, I don't know where to start with my paper, just write. Free write. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. But the moment you start writing it, the moment it becomes easier, the moment it's real. So Anyway, that's what I have to say. This is the notes on the process. And then we did talk about what a good research question is. So I'm encouraging you to remember, by the end of this week, by this coming Sunday, or if you're watching it on Sunday, tonight, but you need to make sure that you have 3 topics for your journal submitted as well as discussion board 2. Um, Outside of that, thank you very much. This will be one video for the notes that will be up online as well as on YouTube. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully I wasn't too boring. I promise once we actually start getting into the research, I promise, but I can't promise that. I hope that it'll be more interesting once we get further into the actual research process. Anyway, have a wonderful day, week, night, evening, afternoon, sunset, whatever it is for you when you're watching this. I hope you're doing well. And I'll see you soon.